Hey, yo, I want to talk about the legality of hybrid mana in Commander. Except actually, I don't. There's been a lot of topics surrounding this game in the last few months that I've chosen not to cover. The ramifications of 7 sets in Standard, the failings of trying to convert a planned small set to a full release last minute, Hasbro CEO Chris Cox suggesting they may accelerate the amount of Universes Beyond sets after 2026, my feelings on one of my favourite IPs getting a full Magic release. Although I suppose I did indirectly talk about that one already. This goddamn survey from WotC where they asked if negative content creators were the reason for poor sales, and then asked people to name those content creators as if they're writing some sort of hit list. The restaurant pig slop controversy. The Gazban Ogress controversy. WotC hurting LGSs by ending buy a box promos. The Monster Hunter Secret Lair being so bad it had to be cancelled. And I'm sure a million other things I'm forgetting from this constant stream of news, spoilers and hype from a game that used to have like 3 sets a year, dude. Hashtag bring back blocks. And I thought that this hybrid mana situation was just another topic that I had opinions on, but ones that either weren't interesting enough to talk about, weren't substantive enough to focus a whole video on, or weren't passion-inducing enough to make me want to stand here and discuss. For example, my thoughts on those other topics boil down to, more and more legal sets each year combined with a longer rotation feels like it goes against the idea that WotC are trying to improve Standard. WotC need to stop trying small sets, even converted we don't want them. They need to learn that less product for the same price isn't the infinite money glitch they want it to be. Yeah, of course the CEO would say he wants more crossovers. His focus is on making money and Universes Beyond has certainly done that. I think I'm an exception to the people who don't want Universes Beyond unless it's an IP that they like idea. Because I love the Turtles and I can't see how Magic will do them justice. Also, I was really proud of this video, it's not what you think, and if you haven't seen it you should go watch. This survey sucked. I don't care that Blake Rasmussen says on Twitter that they don't punish creators for having negative opinions. And if, as he says, in no way are the results of this particular question going to be used as a lever to attack creator, then what other reason did they have to ask then? Why did they want a list of names? This post was aggressively worded in part, so I understand why some people were upset. And while I tend to blame the company rather than the customer, I don't really disagree with anything it said. Also, I am a pig and I eat slop as a sentence is just comedy. Unlike the Gazban Ogress situation, there's nothing more that I can say that wasn't already said in this video, link below if you haven't seen it, but if he hasn't already I think head designer Mark Rosewater should at least apologise. The discontinuation of buy a box promos is one more of 1,000 cuts that WotC will kill LGSs with, and I really don't know what WotC are thinking with that one. And finally, I think it's good that the Monster Hunter Secret Lair got cancelled. I wish they'd be brave enough to do that to every stinker of a product. I could go into more details about all of those topics, but you get the gist and I feel my insight into them would only be skin deep. And I thought this was also true of the hybrid mana situation too. Just another topic I didn't want to talk about. But then on contemplating the why of it, I realised the reason I didn't want to talk about the hybrid mana situation was different, and it's that which I'm going to discuss today. But first, some context. If for some reason you've clicked on this video and are still here, even though you have no idea what I'm talking about. And you'll have to forgive me as I speedrun through this explanation because this is literally the part that I didn't want to talk about. Hybrid mana was first introduced to Magic during Ravnica City of Guilds but was used as a major mechanic during Lorwyn's Shadowmoor block. And yes, I know you can well actually me on basically every word I just said there, but I'm speedrunning here so what I said was close enough. Hybrid mana cards use this symbol indicating that you get a choice of which colour to choose when casting. For instance, Shadow of Doubt can be cast using 2 blue, 2 black, or 1 of each. The colour identity of hybrid mana is determined by their mana pips. For instance, Riot Spikes does count as a red spell even if you only spent black mana to cast it. And some hybrid mana cards have a colourless alternative casting cost instead. For instance, on Flame Javelin you can forgo spending red mana by spending 2 non-red mana for each one you forgo. That means Reaper King, for instance, could be cast using entirely colourless mana, but it would cost you 10 to do so. I suddenly realise I actually don't know how this affects the mana value of the cards. Is Monastery Messenger considered to have a mana value of 3, 6, somewhere in between? Does it depend on how you cast it? Well, we're speedrunning here, so there's just no time to check. From a design perspective, hybrid mana cards are intended to make drafting and deck building easier and more flexible, because for instance Riverwheel Sweep here can be legally played in a blue-red-white deck, but also a blue-red deck, a blue-white deck and a red-white deck, but also a mono-blue deck, a mono-red deck and a mono-white deck, but also a colourless deck, but also any decks with green and black because technically as the card is colourless it can go in anything. Flexibility. When designing a set, WotC will include draft archetypes to give you a clue of how certain colour combinations will play in the set. For instance, green, white and foundations cared about +1/+1 counters, and usually the gold bordered card in that set will have signpost mechanics for their colour combination archetype. But while Good Fortune's Unicorn has the +1/+1 counters, It can't be played unless you have both green and white in your deck. This means in limited formats like Booster Draft you're actually less likely to run the Unicorn even if you open it, because it's statistically less likely that you'll be running that exact combination of colours. Hybrid mana cards fix this issue because, as we can see with Will to Leaf Liege, it also has the Signpost +1/+1 counter mechanic, but you can still run it as a mono colour card even if you don't intend on playing the other colour. Flexibility. And that's hybrid mana. Sounds all good, so what's the problem? Well, Commander is the problem, as has become the trend. See, in Commander you're only allowed to include cards that match the colour identity of your commander. Ashling Flamedancer here is mono red, and while normally a mono red deck could run Fulminator Mage, it can't in Commander because those pips have black in them, meaning it doesn't match Ashling's colour identity. Flexibility? No, and that's the problem. And so Gavin Verhey of the Commander Format panel has proposed they change how the rules of Commander work. This proposition has had a mixed response, with Gavin admitting that even the Format panel isn't unanimously behind the change. Lots of people have reasons why they are in favour of the change, lots of others like myself have reasons why they're against it. But those reasons are not what this video is about. This proposed change also raises a bunch of questions as to how it would even work. What about cards like Deathrite Shaman? Could you run it in a mono-green commander deck even though it has black in the rules text? If not, why not? It is a hybrid card intended by design to be played that way, so won't not doing so with this proposed rules change cause confusion? And if causing confusion isn't a factor as to why we're considering this rules change, then what are the factors as to why we're considering it? Mostly these changes sound like they'd make limited environments easier, but Commander is a constructed format and would be the only format affected. So what do we stand to gain from this increased confusion? We already have separate rules for Commander Draft. Couldn't this rules change only be applied there? What about cards like Tower Above? Giving a creature +4/+4 and trample feels pretty green, but would any Commander deck be able to run this because technically it's also colourless? What about Phyrexian mana? Isn't that just the same thing but using life instead? And how will mana value work? I get it, Beseech the Queen, you've explained how converted mana cost works, but what about mana value? God, there's just no time to find out. And there are more questions of this nature, but answering them is not something that I can do, and also not what this video is about anyway. No, instead I'd like to simply ask, why are we talking about this? Who wanted these changes? Apparently even the Commander Format panel aren't unanimous on this, so... Does WotC think Commander is in trouble? Is it no longer the most popular format? Have you heard the phrase, if it's not broke, don't fix it? Was anyone crying out for these cards to be legal in mono-colour decks? Or, as I suspect, is it more likely this isn't a change intended to benefit the players? Apparently head designer Mark Rosewater was the one to bring this up. So are the design teams struggling? I understand coming up with balanced limited environments must be hard, and as we discussed, hybrid mana creates a bit of a shortcut for communicating a set's archetypes without having to create hurdles for the player during deck building. Must be hard to design cards that thread that needle without hybrid mana, but that's your job, Wizards of the Coast. Overcoming the challenges of set design is literally what we pay you to do. Is this why we're seeing so many words on cards lately? Is this why we're seeing so many double-faced cards? Are these things a crutch for design? Because reducing complexity is hard, so you've just stopped doing it? And now maybe you're finding the colour pie is a bit constraining too, so does relying on normalising an increase of hybrid mana cards in sets make it easier for you? If your design teams are sending Mark Rosewater to fix Commander because they're struggling to keep up, do you think maybe there might be other reasons for that? I hear you when you say it's not just Mr. Rosewater pushing for this change, but the whole design team taking time out of their day to think about this? Would that time not have been better spent maybe working on the problems in Standard? Finding a way to make Modern more affordable? Or how about just playtesting your cards more so you don't have to keep banning them? No, it's Commander that's the problem, right? And I guess I'm just trying to say that I no longer trust Wizards of the Coast to do what's best for the player base. Commander was a community-run format. I don't think I ever heard anyone in that community complain about how hybrid mana cards work. And then WotC gained control of the format and all of a sudden the head designer is looking at it and says the design team wants to make a change. And I'm sure Gavin or probably anyone at Wizards of the Coast will have silken words to keep the player base calm and distracted like frogs not noticing the water around them slowly boiling. And what they say may even be true in the moment, as evidenced by this interaction someone had with Mr. Rosewater on his blog where they asked, "How can we trust what you say to us here?" To which in essence his entire reply boiled down to, "I 100% believed the thing I said when I said it." And as communications guy, Blake Rasmussen said when asked, "How can we trust anything you or Wizards say?" He responded, "The simple answer is that things change." So okay, Wizards of the Coast, you've made it clear that when your PR people speak, they aren't lying, but what they say is only true in the moment that they're saying it. So when Mr. Verhey uploads a Good Morning Magic video explaining that the accusations WotC are trying to force this change through against community wishes is not the case, and that speculation this change is being timed with the release of Lorwyn, presumably to pump up sales numbers by filling that standard set with Chase Commander cards, has no basis. And the idea that this change is only coming from the higher-ups to benefit the company isn't true. You'll forgive me when I remember that just because what you've said isn't lies, doesn't mean it'll be true after you've finished saying it. There's a cardboard crack comic I want you to read linked below because it sums up my thoughts perfectly, and I feel highlights the issue that regardless of their publicly stated intentions, anytime WotC faces a fork in the road, they'll seemingly take the path that makes them the most money. Consequences to the rest of the game be damned, profits over players. So considering the combination of this proposed change to Magic's most popular format, which appears to be at the request of the higher-ups and not the player base, and given that I'd argue most of the changes of this nature are made for the benefit of Hasbro shareholders and not said player base, and given the fact that WotC have made it abundantly clear there's no point engaging them in debate on topics like this because their words maintain truth like a sieve maintains water, I just sort of felt like talking about this hybrid mana situation was pointless. I chose not to talk about Chris Cox accelerating universes beyond, the Spider-Man survey, or the pig slop controversy because I thought it wouldn't make for a good enough video. But I chose not to talk about the hybrid mana situation because it felt pointless. WotC Hasbro are going to do what's best for them and fuck the rest of us. But last week, I put out a video extolling the benefits of complaining when something is wrong. I talked about how things never get better if we don't try and fix them, and here's a twist for you. I trust him. I think Gavin Verhey's passion for the game is genuine, and he actually does want what's best for the player base, even if he is under the control of his corporate overlords. So okay Gavin, here's the feedback you asked for. Don't make this change. I have many reasons, but I'll boil them down to one. You and the format panel are not the kings of Commander. You were given stewardship of the format, but it's still owned by the community. That means you can make bans, that's basically what we're asking you to do. You can even give us guidelines on how we should play. What you can't do is tell us what we can play. I understand your argument that allowing hybrid mana cards gives us more options during deck building, but first, I don't think we asked for those options. Second, it's not WotC's place to suggest making foundational rules changes to the format. Third, Commander was built on restrictions, it's why the colour identity rules are even a thing. And fourth, I don't care how the design teams intended for us to play with these cards. It's not their format. So I am asking you if you have any control not to make this change. I don't think it's what the players want. But also last week I talked about compromise and maybe I'm wrong. So if you do make these changes because you genuinely feel it's what's best for the community, then I want you to prove it. No more of this where we have the data and feedback but we can't show it to you so you just have to trust us nonsense. Because you've lost that trust as you've made a point of telling us there's no truth to what you say in the long run. So given that, I think it'll be easier to just not make this change and avoid causing yet another schism in this game. But regardless of what you decide, what I want is for you to prove it to us, prove it to me that it's still worth engaging in these discussions. Because I nearly didn't. And if things continue as they have been, Gavin, with WotC's messaging being that it's pointless listening to you, then maybe next time I won't. And that is what this video is about. Thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone that supports me, like 27 Publications, Eggboy the Particle that permeates all existence, Blank Space, Wan Paco Jozu, Miss Murder, a random Patreon, Ominous Jazz, and the rest of my patrons whose names are on screen now. I'd also like to thank the sponsor for this video, me and my Patreon page. Because you can get your name credited on screen too, check it out in the link in the description below. Hit the like button, leave a comment, tell me your thoughts on hybrid mana, but most importantly subscribe and share this video with a friend. Hit the notification bell and do all those things the algorithm loves. Actually, forget that, just subscribe. That's all I'm asking for this week, just subscribe. If you agree or disagree with any of my points, or you want to see me do a video on another subject, let me know and I will see you next time.